Welcome, everybody. My name is Peter Vangsness. I'm a volunteer on the AARP Massachusetts Speakers Bureau. We welcome everyone from around the country. We have quite an audience tonight. We'll be focusing on increasing your understanding of Social Security and what it offers to you. AARP knows that you work hard and pay into Social Security, so it's only fair for you to expect to get the money you've earned. AARP maintains a deep focus on the health, financial security, and personal fulfillment of people 50 and over and their families, and you'll find that reflected in our offerings and resources and in our advocacy. Across Massachusetts and all the way to Capitol Hill in DC, AARP is leading the fight for the issues that matter most to you. We're working to strengthen Medicare, safeguard Social Security benefits, and champion the rights of older Americans. AARP is urging Congress to better support family caregivers, make communities age-friendly, and crack down on fraud. Thanks to our millions of members, we're winning this fight. And in a historic victory, AARP led the charge for new Medicare prescription drug reform. Starting January 1st, a new $2,000 cap on prescription drug costs will take effect, saving Medicare enrollees who reach the cap an average of $1,100 a year. Additionally, for the first time, Medicare will have the authority to negotiate lower prices on selected high-cost medications, an enormous step forward for affordable health care. This is all great news for older Americans. And now to the subject at hand, understanding your Social Security benefits. During today's program, if you'd like to ask a question, please click on the Q&A button and type in your question, okay? Not the chat button. You want to type on the Q&A, and you can click on the CC at the bottom right of your screen to turn on the captions. We will address questions that are more of a general nature and that may also apply to other attendees in our session tonight. Really individualized questions may not be taken up. However, our presenter has offered generously to consider those questions after the event has ended, and I'll tell you how to do that shortly. If we don't get to your question on the live program, please email us at ma@aarp.org. That's ma@aarp.org. After today, this recording can also be sent to you along with all the slides. So, our speaker tonight is Kurt Zarnowski. Kurt is the former Regional Communications Director for the Social Security Administration in New England, a position he held from 1991 until his retirement in 2010. Ever since then, he has been on demand on the speaking circuit around the country to inform people of Social Security and their benefits. Kurt, once again, we're happy to have you with us, so let's get started.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everyone. Great to be with you. As Peter said, my name is Kurt Zarnowski, currently the principal in Zarnowski Consulting. Now, for those one or two in the webinar not intimately familiar with us, always proud to say we're an international consulting firm whose world headquarters are conveniently located right here in a spare bedroom of my house in Norfolk, Massachusetts, which is where I'm coming to from tonight. But don't worry, it's Zarnowski Consulting. We like to say we provide expert answers to your Social Security questions, because as Peter said, I worked for the Social Security Administration for 34 years. In the last 20 years of my career, my job was as the communications director here in New England, which meant I spent the vast majority of my time, as our Canadian friends would say, oot and a boot, talking to people about the Social Security program. And in my retirement, such as it is, continue to do that same type of work, largely because I enjoy the heck out of it, but also because I believe there's a real need for the information. Believe it or not, the Social Security program is now a little over 89 years old. And each and every month, the Social Security Administration pays over $120 billion in benefits to just under 68 million people. And on top of that, there's another 184 million folks like you in the webinar. We're out there now working and paying into the program. And what I saw during my time with the agency, and now that I'm on my own, is despite the age of the program, despite the size of the program, and frankly, despite the economic impact that Social Security has in this country today, unfortunately, the myths and misunderstandings are out there about what it is as well as what it isn't, sometimes overwhelming. So I was excited to accept AARP's invitation to spend the next 7 or 8 hours with you. Very slowly, carefully, all right. spend about 45 minutes or so talking about some of the things I think it's important for you to know about what the program is, or perhaps equally importantly, what it isn't. And then we'll open up discussion for your questions. And why it's so important to have that information these days? Simple. Baby boomers, right? 75 million of us storming towards retirement, just now starting to wake up to the fact the retirement world staring us in the face is different than the retirement world that faced our parents and our grandparents, starting to recognize that the Social Security program as a guaranteed stream of lifetime income may well be a bigger part of our retirement income than we had initially anticipated. We're also recognizing we don't know as much about it as we should, and we're struggling to catch up. So again, our time together today, I want to give you some good, solid information to help you understand what the program is, understand what it isn't, dispel those myths and misunderstandings, and set you down the road to the comfortable retirement we hope to enjoy. In our time together this evening, we'll cover full, early, and delayed retirement benefits. In other words, when to collect. We'll talk about Social Security and working. We'll talk about how Social Security is really a family protection program, even through its retirement benefits. And we'll also touch on the future of the Social Security program. Here's a quick reminder, the disclaimer. You can read that at your leisure when you get a copy of the slides. So let's start with a discussion of the Social Security retirement benefit program. And as I travel around the country and talk, wait a minute, who am I kidding? I haven't been traveling anywhere for 4.5 years. I've been locked away here in splendid isolation at the world headquarters of Zarnowski Consulting. But I do talk to people through webinars, and I do a little bit of in-person presentations. And in talking about the retirement program, I think the single most frequently asked question from people is, oh, when should I take my money? Most people are interested in that. So let's start with that discussion. And you need to understand that in terms of collecting benefits, you've got choices and you've got options. What I'll try and do this evening is make sure you fully understand the choices and options that are available to you. In other words, I want to help you understand what you can do under the program. But ultimately deciding what you should do, that's your choice, your decision. After all, you're the ones who worked and paid into the program. I can't tell you what you should do. But my view is, unless and until you fully understand what you can do, you're in no position to decide what you should do. So let's make sure you understand the choices and options that are available to you. And the place to start is by making sure you know what Social Security calls your full retirement age. Key concept of the program. When Social Security started back in 1935, Congress set full retirement age at the month someone turned age 65. And it continued that way without exception until Congress changed the law in 1983 and increased Social Security full retirement age for anyone born 1938 or later. Now, this increase gradually been phased in over time, and for a big chunk of us baby boomers, and it was happening born between 1943 and 1954, our Social Security full retirement age was the month we turned age 66. But it's important to note, under current law, full retirement age continues to increase. Tops out right now anyone born in 1960 or later has a Social Security full retirement age at the month he or she turns age 67. Now understand this, collecting at your full retirement age isn't your only choice, it isn't your only option. But make sure you know what your full retirement age month is based on your year of birth, because you'll see as we go through the discussion, a lot of features of the program do flow from at least having reached your Social Security full retirement age. So make sure you know what yours is. But in terms of collecting benefits, you opt to start the month you reach your full retirement age means one thing and one thing only. It means you'll receive 100% of the amount your work and earnings entitle you to collect. We'll talk in a second how that gets calculated, but you start your full retirement age month, you get 100% of your benefit. But among the options you have are to start prior to reaching full retirement age month, if that makes sense for you. And under the rules these days, you can start as early the month you turn age 62, or at any point in between, by the way. But here's the deal. Social Security, as the name implies, is a social insurance program. And Congress has built certain social goals into it. And what is the hope at the end of the day, based on average life expectancy, everyone will end up with roughly the same amount of total lifetime benefits, regardless of when they start to collect. And so you opt to start collecting prior to reaching your full retirement age month. Well, now then by starting sooner, in theory, you'll be collecting for a longer period of time. You'll find that that full retirement age benefit amount gets reduced. How much a reduction? Well, it's reduced by roughly 0.5% for each month prior to your full retirement age you're going to be collecting. 0.5% per month translates into a roughly 6% per year reduction by starting early. But you don't have to start right on your birthday. You don't have to start the first of the calendar year. But if you opt to start collecting prior to reaching your full retirement age, you'll see that that full retirement age benefit amount has been reduced by roughly 0.5% for each month you're going to be collecting. And oh yeah, by the way, it's a permanent reduction. Now, though the myths are so prevalent, too many folks mistakenly think, yeah, I know I'll start early, I'll get less. But as soon as I hit my full retirement age, my benefit will zoom back up, right? Wrong. Permanent reduction. The idea being by starting sooner, well, then in theory anyway, you'll be collecting for a longer period of time. So you'll find that your payment amount gets reduced, with the whole idea being, though, based on average life expectancy, you'll end up with roughly the same amount of total lifetime payments, regardless of when you start to collect. Now, as I mentioned, you start your full retirement age month, you get 100% of your benefit. But among the options you have are to wait past your full retirement age before starting, if that makes sense for you. And with that social insurance idea in place, then you opt to defer. Well, then by starting later, in theory anyway, you'll now be collecting for a shorter period of time. So by all rights, by waiting, your payment amount ought to be increased, right? And it is. These are referred to as delayed retirement credits. And for each month past your full retirement age you opt not to collect, you'll see that full retirement age benefit amount now has been permanently increased by 0.2%. 0.2% per month increase translates into an 8% per year increase by waiting, but you don't have to not collect for a year. For each month past your full retirement age you defer, your benefit permanently increased by that 0.2%. But here's the thing. Delayed retirement credits only accrue from your full retirement age month until the month you turn age 70. And understand this, under the rules of the program, you never have to take your Social Security benefits. Not like there's a required minimum distribution like there is with your IRA or 401k or 403b. But if you opt to defer collecting from your full retirement age right up until age 70, you'll see that full retirement age benefit increase by 0.2% for each month you've opted not to collect. You opt to wait past age 70 before starting. While it's your right to do so, there's no additional increase by waiting past age 70. So let me give you an example to illustrate what I'm talking about. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong way. Let's say we've got somebody with a full retirement age of 66. And at full retirement age, they get $1,000 per month. What are the options that are available? Well, we'll oversimplify the example because we won't factor in cost of living adjustments, but COLAs lift all boats equally. But that person wants to start at the earliest possible point, right at age 62. The way the reduction factor worked out, he or she would have received $750 per month. Well, yeah, they would have been getting $250 less each month than they receive if they had waited till full retirement age of 66 to start. But the trade-off, obviously, they would have received that lower amount sooner, and in theory anyway, would have been collecting it for a longer period of time. They started at 63, that had gotten more each month, $800 a month. 65, $933. Their full retirement age is 66. That's when they'd have gotten the full $1,000 a month that a working earnings entitled them to collect. But say they wanted to wait a little bit, wanted to wait 1 year, start at age 67. Well, that 1 year deferral, their payment now is going to be 8% higher, meaning your benefit not $1,000 a month, no, $1,080 per month and continuing. And say they wanted to wait all the way until age 70 before starting. Well, they would have had that full retirement age benefit increased by for each one of the 4 years that they'd opted not to collect. And it's simple interest, not compounded. But her payment would have been 32% higher than the full retirement age amount. In other words, they'd be getting $1,320 per month, not that $1,000 per month they would have received had they started at full retirement age. So I said right up front, your choice, your decision. What are the things you ought to be thinking about? Well, you know as well as I do, right? Your health for one thing, longevity for a second factor. I always like to ask folks, do you come from a family of long livers? Or do you come from a family of short pancreases? Ba-dum-bum. Hey, it's a line out of the movie Goodbye Columbus from 50-something years ago. Can't claim it for my own as much as I might like. But all those things come into play. You need to factor them in. And the whole idea always used to be, based on average life expectancy, it was all supposed to come out about even. But these days, life expectancy is increasing. So what are the things you ought to be thinking about? When to start to collect? Ooh, why did that do that? I'm sorry. So the things you ought to be thinking about, as I said, your health, longevity, all of those things need to be taken into effect. But there really is no one right decision that fits everyone. It's your choice, your decision. And number of things you need to be thinking about. We talked about them, but I want you to be making an informed decision about what might be best for you. And how do you make that informed decision? Well, you need to plan for retirement. I'm having trouble here. And the way to plan for retirement is to use the retirement planning tool that the Social Security Administration has put in place. Been around for a while. May remember that back in the day, the Social Security Administration used to mail on an annual basis a paper document, a Social Security statement. Those Social Security statements started going out back in 1999. The original distribution plan had them going out to anyone who was 25 years of age or older, who had ever worked and paid into the Social Security program, and who was not yet collecting benefits. That Social Security statement, designed to show up in your mailbox about 3 months before your birthday each year, providing important retirement planning information. As you recall, it gave you benefit estimates at 3 different ages: 62, your full retirement age, or 70. The other thing that was so important, it would provide you with a nice year-by-year breakout of what the Social Security Administration had recorded as your work and earnings under the program. And when you get that statement each year, it was important to review the earnings information, because your benefit in the end is based on an average of your 35 highest years of work under the system. So if a mistake had occurred in crediting you with some earnings, it was important to catch it, correct it, because if you didn't, it would have a direct impact on what you would eventually receive from Social Security. But you may have noticed, hey, I haven't got one of those statements every year. What's the deal? Well, Social Security has significantly altered distribution plans for Social Security statements. And the big news is they no longer mail paper documents on an annual basis to anyone and everyone 25 years of age or older. Instead, what they've done first and foremost is put in place a system whereby if you go to www.ssa.gov and set up an individual My Social Security account for yourself, an important byproduct of having that account in place is you'll then be able to download through a secure website a Social Security statement for yourself whenever you may need one or want one. You're going to meet with someone to do some retirement planning. Being able to bring a current Social Security statement to that meeting going to make it a more worthwhile exercise. Now, down the road, having that account in place provides a lot of other advantages, but prior to retirement, single biggest advantage is that ability to access a Social Security statement whenever you may need one or want one. So, homework assignment for me to all of you in the webinar tonight. If you've not yet set up your individual My Social Security account for yourself, please do so. Take about 15 or 20 minutes or so from the comfort and convenience of your own home. As I said, down the road, once you start to collect benefits, a lot of advantages flow from having that account in place. But prior to retirement, Single biggest advantage is to access a Social Security statement whenever you may need one or want one. And need to understand, use that information in the statement to help you recognize Social Security is designed to provide you a base of income protection, a foundation, if you will, but it was never intended to be your only source of income in retirement. And the sooner you recognize that, find ways to supplement your Social Security, the more likely you are to have that comfortable retirement we all hope to enjoy. So plan for retirement, utilize the Social Security statement, helping you make an informed decision about what might be best for you. By the way, Social Security has decided to resume mailing paper documents, albeit though on a very limited basis. And what they say these days is if you're 60 years of age or older and have not yet set up a My Social Security account for yourself, they will mail you a paper document, same old schedule, about 3 months before your birthday. But that's it for paper mailings. If you're under the age of 60, the only way you get a Social Security statement is by setting up that My Social Security account and downloading it again through the secure website. But my view is, excuse me, even if you're over the age of 60, I think it makes a lot of sense to set up that My Social Security account for yourself right now. Because again, you're going to meet with someone, do some retirement planning. Being able to bring a current Social Security statement to that meeting, going to make it a far more worthwhile exercise. So again, key message, plan for retirement, make an informed decision about what's best for you and your family. The Social Security statement is one tool, and AARP has a number of other tools that are accessible through its website, aarp.org/Social Security. Again, there's no one single right decision. It's your choice, your decision. But again, I want you to be making an informed decision about what's best for you. And in its simplest form, you start sooner, you get a lower amount for the rest of your life. You wait longer before you start, you get a higher payment amount for the rest of your life. But the whole idea always was based on average life expectancy. It was all supposed to come out about even. But maybe as average life expectancy is increasing, maybe it makes sense to wait a little bit. But again, not for me to say, your choice, your decision. Before we move on from when to collect, just a quick reminder. People often ask, well, what if I change my mind about collecting? Do I have any options then? Well, yes, you do. And that decision to start collecting benefits doesn't have to be an irrevocable one. I like to remind folks, you start to collect Social Security retirement benefits, say at 64. And 6 months go by and you say, you know, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. It's important to understand that anyone and everyone who starts to collect retirement benefits has the ability within 12 months of starting to collect to exercise what used to be referred to as the Social Security do-over. And basically, it's technically you withdraw the application for Social Security benefits that you had previously filed. Now, for Social Security to grant that withdrawal request, you need to do one thing and one thing only. You simply need to repay any benefits you may have collected. But the key thing is Social Security doesn't charge interest. You simply repay the principal. And once that check clears, it's as if that first application you had originally filed has never occurred. You're then free to reapply whatever late date down the road make more sense for you. And your payment rate will be set not based on that initial application date, but that subsequent application date. Now, the key thing is you have to exercise this ability within 12 months of starting to collect. And you have one opportunity in a lifetime to withdraw your Social Security retirement benefits. But again, within 12 months of collecting, once in a lifetime, you can completely undo what you've done by withdrawing your application, repaying any benefits you may have received, and then being free to reapply whatever later date down the road may make more sense for you. So that decision doesn't have to be an irrevocable one. You do that, have that option within 12 months of starting to collect. So an important tool to have in your toolbox. So let's segue into a discussion about working and Social Security. A lot of questions from folks interested in understanding how working impacts somebody's ability to collect Social Security retirement benefits. And this is another area where it's vitally important to know what your Social Security full retirement age month is. Because under the rules of the program, if you are under your full retirement age, looking to collect Social Security benefits, but intending to work at the same time, you need to understand that you're limited in how much you can earn before it begins to impact your Social Security payments. In 2024, for example, this year, you're allowed to make up to $22,320 without any loss in benefits. To make over that doesn't mean you can't collect at all, but it means Social Security then is required to start holding back $1 in benefit payments for every $2 that you're over the threshold. So depending on how much you're making, you may not be able to collect even if you want to. So what counts towards that $22,320 this year? It's earned income only, wages and or net income from self-employment. That whole wide world of unearned income you might be receiving, a VA benefit, General Motors pension, 401k distributions, none of that counts towards that earnings limitation. Now, incidentally, the amount allowed increases each year, and in 2025, the amount increases to $23,400. But I often ask the question, oh, is there any time I can work and get as much as I want? And the answer is yes. From the month you reach your full retirement age on, you're allowed to work and earn as much as you'd like and collect Social Security benefit payments at the same time. Well, then the follow-up question always is, well, if I'm retired and I go back to work, though, I'm not going to have to pay Social Security tax on my earnings, am I? Well, yes, you are if you're in a job covered by Social Security. The good news for the folks at Social Security, because they can use the money these days. But believe it or not, there's potentially good news for you as well. I mentioned a while ago, your benefits calculated by averaging your highest 35 years of work under the system. Incidentally, Social Security does go back and adjust your prior year earnings for inflation, but they average your earnings over your high 35 years, apply a benefit formula, and generates the payment amount you get each month. Well, the good news is it's your high 35 regardless of when they occur. It isn't necessarily your first 35 years of work. It isn't necessarily your last 35 years of work. It isn't even necessarily your 35 consecutive years. So even if you're retired, collecting Social Security benefits, you decide to go back to work in a job covered under Social Security. Well, at the end of the year, you'll file a tax return. Well, the good news is Social Security will automatically do a match. They'll compare that new year of earnings with the lowest of the 35 years that Social Security had been using to calculate your payment. And if your new year of earnings is higher than the lowest of your 35 years, they're going to drop out the low year, plug in the new year, and it results in a benefit increase for you. And this ability to increase your payment through additional work, it continues forever. Those delayed retirement credits we mentioned, that bump because you haven't collected, yeah, those stop accruing when you turn age 70. But no matter how old you are, if you're working, paying into the program, and your earnings are higher than the lowest of the 35 years that Social Security had been averaging up until that point, well, the great news is they drop out that low year, plug in the new year, results in a benefit increase for you. And frankly, the other bit of good news is work really never hurts. Well, I can't really address the physical side of things, but from the Social Security perspective, let's say you're a high-priced executive, but in retirement, take a part-time job at the local golf course, driving the beer cart around. End of the year, you file your tax return. And in all likelihood, that new year of earnings is going to be lower than the lowest of the 35 years that Social Security had been using to calculate your payment. So what happens to your benefit amount going forward? Nothing. Stays the same because it's always based on an average of your highest 35 years of work under the system, regardless of when they occur. So again, important to understand how work and earnings impact your Social Security collection ability. And as long as you are at your full retirement age or older, you can work and earn as much as you'd like without any loss of benefit payments. But if you're under your full retirement age, there is an earnings limitation that applies, and you need to be aware of that. And that applies whether you're collecting retirement, spousal, survivor, or divorced spousal benefits. Speaking of which, let's talk about how the Social Security retirement program is actually a family protection program. Key part of the program is that in addition to a retired worker collecting Social Security retirement benefits, program allows for additional payments to be made to other members of the family the amount of which is based on the worker's work record. So who can collect? And we'll talk about them individually. Children, spouses, divorced spouses, and survivors. Let's talk about kids. Under the Social Security retirement program, a lot of people don't realize is if someone is collecting Social Security retirement benefits and they have a child at home who is under the age of 18 or up through age 19, still a full-time student in high school, that child is eligible to receive an additional monthly payment over and above what's paid to the parent. Now, there's also an additional category of benefits for children who are referred to as disabled adult children. These kids over the age of 18, but disabled under a disability began prior to reaching age 22. So there are about 3 million kids right now who receive a monthly Social Security payment because their parent is either retired, parent is disabled, or parent perhaps has passed away. But kids benefits. And the basic rate for retired parent, child is eligible to receive 50% of the parent's full retirement age amount. But again, it has to be unmarried, under the age of 18, or through age 19, if still a full-time student in high school, or as a disabled adult child over the age of 18, but under a disability began prior to age 22. So this comprehensive family protection program, kids receive Social Security payments because their parent is now retired and receiving benefits as well. So what about benefits to spouses? Well, the Social Security program has provided spousal benefits since about the mid-1950s or so. And Social Security spousal program, when it was put in place basically to support the model of the American family of the mid-50s and 60s, which was personified by the Cleaver family of the TV show Leave It to Beaver. Because those of you who are as old as me, or maybe a little bit less old, remember that in the Cleaver household, Ward Cleaver was the breadwinner. June Cleaver, Ward's spouse, never worked a day outside the home in her life. But under the Social Security spousal benefit program, Ward Cleaver collects whatever he's entitled to on his own work record, but June Cleaver, as his spouse, is eligible to receive a spousal benefit equal to 50% of Ward's full retirement age amount, even though she may not have worked a day outside the home in her life. But that was the 50s and 60s, right? In the 70s, 80s, and beyond, in all likelihood, June Cleaver would have worked outside the home, would have paid into the Social Security program, and would have earned a benefit based on their work activity. So how does that all work? Well, under the rules these days, you go into Social Security looking to collect Social Security spousal benefits. The law says you must collect your own retirement benefit first. At that point, Social Security will look to see whether you might be due some additional money in Social Security spousal benefits. And they do that by comparing your full retirement age amount to 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount. And if your own full retirement age amount exceeds 50% of your spouse's, well, then you collect solely based on your own work record. But if your own is less than 50%, you collect your own and then are due some additional money on top of your own, bringing you up to that 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount. The key thing is you can't receive this additional hunk of money unless and until your spouse is actually collecting his or her own retirement benefit. Until that point, you're limited to collecting based on your own work record. So spousal benefits, important point, it's based on 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount, not necessarily 50% of the amount your spouse may actually be collecting. But you're always required to take your own retirement benefit first, and you collect basically one amount to the other based on your own work record or up to 50% of your spouse's, whichever one is higher, but not both at once. So spousal benefits, another key component of the Social Security Family Protection Program. But what about benefits to divorced spouses? Well, law allows for payments in that situation if a few conditions have been met. First and foremost, marriage needs to have lasted at least 10 years prior to the divorce. For regular spousal benefits, need to have been married just a year, 1 year duration of marriage requirement. But for divorce spousal benefits, need to have been married at least 10 years prior to the divorce. Now, to collect a divorce spousal benefit, basically it's the same as spousal benefits in that you have to be at least age 62. Earliest age you can collect a spousal benefit or a divorce spousal benefit, no different than on the retirement program. Thirdly, to collect, you cannot be married. You cannot be married. Your ex can have remarried without impacting your ability to collect on his or her work record, but to collect as a divorced spouse, you cannot be married. Now, the second bullet, key point, because as I mentioned, if the marriage were intact, you couldn't collect as a spouse, that spousal portion, unless until your spouse was actually collecting. But what the law says in case of divorce is, as long as you and your ex are at least over the age of 62, and the divorce was finalized at least 2 years ago, you can begin to collect as a divorced spouse, even if your ex has not yet started to collect. So with all those conditions being met, what are you eligible to receive? Simple, it's if the marriage were still intact. You always have to take your own retirement benefit first. Social Security then compares your full retirement age amount to 50% of your ex's full retirement age amount. And if your own exceeds 50% of your ex's, you collect solely based on your own work record. If it's less, you collect your own sum plus some additional money on top of that. But again, divorce spousal benefits, marriage needs to have lasted at least 10 years prior to the divorce, and you cannot be married, but you always collect your own retirement benefit first. And the same basic principle, you collect based on your own work record or 50% of your ex's, whichever one is higher, but you don't get both at once. So what about survivor benefits, payments to widows and widowers? Well, here the news is a little bit better. With spousal and divorce spousal benefits, the payment's based on 50% of the spouse's or ex-spouse's full retirement age amount. But in cases of widows and widower benefits, payments based on 100% of the amount the deceased spouse had been collecting or would have been collecting at the time of death. So let's say, for example, you're getting $800 a month. Your spouse is getting $1,000 per month. Your spouse passes away. Well, the good news is your individual payment will increase by $200, moving from the $800 you've been collecting on your own up to that $1,000 level that your now deceased spouse had been collecting. Yeah, that's the good news. The bad news, if you think about it, though, is while you were both alive in our example, you're getting $1,800 a month from Social Security. Your spouse passes away. Sure, your individual payment goes up, but as if your old benefit goes away. Just something you need to plan for, because here, too, you collect one amount to the other, whichever one is higher, but you don't continue to collect both payment amounts at once. The other point I want to make, though, is this. Your spouse, full retirement age amount of $1,000 at age 66, has opted to wait until age 70 to collect. So at the time he or she passes away, receiving $1,320 per month. The great news now is your own $800 benefit increases past that $1,000 all the way up to that $1,320 that your now deceased spouse had been collecting. So just keep this in mind in deciding when to start to draw your own retirement benefit. Just remember that by starting to collect sooner, not only is your own payment amount lower, but it also means that any survivor payment that could be made upon your passing going to be lower as well. And by opting to wait, not only is your own payment higher once you start to collect it, but it also means that any survivor benefit that could be made upon your passing going to be higher as well. Just something for you to think about and take into account in deciding when to start to collect your own retirement benefit. Couple other points. Widows and widowers can actually start to collect a little bit sooner, start to collect as early as age 60. But the same concept holds. You start to collect that payment prior to reaching full retirement age or full retirement age, the benefit amount's reduced. Because in theory, by starting sooner, you're going to be collecting for a longer period of time. But one key reminder about survivor benefits, that doesn't apply to spousal and divorce spousal benefits, I mentioned. With spousal and divorce spousal benefits, you always have to take your own retirement benefit first. But with the survivor program, you have the option of sequencing the collection. You can collect on one account and then switch to the other at a later date. So as a widow at age 60, for example, you could opt to collect a reduced survivor benefit at age 60, collect, and then at your full retirement age, switch over and receive a full unreduced retirement benefit. And the reverse could be true. Start to collect a reduced retirement benefit as early as 62, and then at full retirement age, switch over and collect a full unreduced survivor benefit. Now, the key thing is you collect one amount or the other at a time. You don't get both at once. But with survivor benefits, it is possible to sequence the collection, and you don't always have to take your own retirement benefit first. And the folks at Social Security can help you work out with different benefit amounts what the proper sequence might be to maximize your lifetime Social Security benefits. So spousal, divorce spousal, and survivor benefits, an important part of the program that people need to be aware of. So you've reached the end of your rope. Like Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard, no mas, I quit. You decided you want to retire July 1st of 2025. And you've decided you're going to start to collect Social Security retirement benefits effective with the month of July of 2025. Oh, what do you do? Well, understand this. Under the rules of the program, Social Security can accept an application for benefits a maximum of 4 months in advance of the month you want to start to collect. So you decide you want to start to collect effective with the month of July of 2025. That means you can apply anytime after March 1st of 2025. Apply March 1st on, ask to have your payments begin effective July of 2025. Now, how do you apply? Well, here you have some options as well. To me, anyway, the single best way to do it is to use Social Security's online retirement application, accessible at www.ssa.gov. Take about 20 minutes or so from the comfort and convenience of your own home, starting day or night, wearing your pink footy pajamas for all anybody knows. Now, a couple of points. To use that online application, you do need to have established a My Social Security account for yourself in advance. And the reason why, do it now. So if retirement application looms, you'll have that in place and be able to use the online application. I always like to remind folks, though, who say, well, what if I make a mistake? Every online application that gets submitted is reviewed by a human being. That's why they ask for contact information. So if there are any questions about what you put down, Social Security, somebody's going to get back to you and resolve those issues. But I understand there may be some people who are uncomfortable filing online, in which case the best way to go, call Social Security's toll-free 800 number, set up an appointment for either an in-person visit to a local Social Security office, or you can set up what Social Security calls a teleclaim, where they'll call you at the appointed hour, complete the application with you over the phone. But again, maximum of 4 months in advance. Do you have to apply 4 months in advance? No, but you can't apply any more than 4 months in advance. 2 last points. By design, Social Security payments go out 1 month in arrears. So you're going to start to collect effective with the month of July 2025. Understand this, your July Social Security payment will be sent to you in August of 2025. But wait, there's more. Back in the day, everybody used to get paid on the 3rd day of the month. But for the past 25 years or so, payments have been staggered through the course of the month based on somebody's date of birth. So understand this, if your date of birth falls between the 1st and the 10th of the month in which you're born, you'll always receive your Social Security payment via direct deposit on the 2nd Wednesday of the month, regardless of the date. Date of birth falls between the 11th and the 20th of the month you're born, you're always paid on the 3rd Wednesday of the month. The date of birth falls between the 21st and the end of the month in which you're born, always paid on the 4th Wednesday of the month. So you're retiring June 30th, want to start to collect effective July of 2025, but your date of birth happens to be the 28th. Just understand, you'll see your first Social Security payment in your bank account on the 4th Wednesday of August. Because as the formerly great philosopher Belichick used to say, it is what it is. So you just need to recognize that and plan for it. But again, use that online application if you're comfortable doing so. I recommend doing it. But if you're not comfortable, contact Social Security, make an appointment, have them complete the application with you and for you. So, quick reminder, what's the future of the Social Security program? Well, I always like to refer to the great Yogi Berra, who once said, "I'm very reluctant to make predictions, especially about the future." And in many ways, it's the same way with me about the future of the Social Security program. But I am comfortable in also quoting Mark Twain, who once said, "Reports of my demise are greatly exaggerated." And the facts are these. Each year, Social Security's Board of Trustees issues a financial report on the health of the Social Security program. And in that report, they attempt to not only lay out the current status, but attempt to project 75 years into the future. And the current trustees report came out in May of this year, says that it is currently constituted, assuming no changes to the program whatsoever, no increase in taxes, no cuts in benefits. They project Social Security has enough money on hand to cover 100% of the promised benefits through the end of the year 2034. At that point, the report goes on to say, while they don't project there'll be enough money to cover 100% of the benefits, they do anticipate that tax revenue from the time will be sufficient to cover about 83% of the benefits that have been promised. And that's an important point to me. People need to understand. Social Security's primary source of revenue, payroll tax dollars collected from employers, employees, and people who are self-employed. I don't know how many times I've talked to younger workers in particular who say, "Oh, there's not going to be anything there for me down the road." As long as the United States economy is functioning in some form or fashion, Social Security will always have a revenue stream of some sort. The issue is, looking down the road, is that revenue streams thought to be enough to cover 100% of the promised benefits. And later report says between now and 2034 it is, but beginning in 2035, while it isn't, it is thought to be enough to cover about 83% of the benefits. So the issue confronting Congress in terms of addressing the solvency issue for Social Security is not how do you close a 100% funding gap by next month. No, it's how over the course of the next 10 years or so, you come up with some reasonable changes to the program to ensure that Social Security will be able to pay 100% of the promised benefits, just as they have every month since the program started paying regular benefits back in 1939. And there are options and choices out there. It's important to let your congressional reps know what your views are on this, because again, it'll ultimately be congressional action that decides. And AARP is going to continue to fight to protect the benefits of those of us who have worked and paid into the system, who are currently collecting, and those who are anticipating collecting. All right, like Lady Godiva, I must come to my clothes. Oh, come on, that's a funny line. Peter, I'll turn it back to you. We'll open up questions. Happy to see and answer any questions people may have presented.
Thank you so much, Kurt. That, as always, that was fabulous and very informative. The first question I do think you answered in your presentation, but we only have 6, so we'll do it again. If somebody is retiring in the middle of the year, how much impact will that have on collecting benefits for the following month? In other words, does it matter when in the previous month that you actually apply?
So basically, a couple of things to deal with. We talked about working in general. It's also important, which I didn't have time to cover, but we'll touch on briefly now. During someone's first year of retirement, there is a special earnings test that comes into play, which is designed to help people collect benefits when they retire in the middle of the year. So you could have somebody who works from January to June 30th, make $1 million, retires July 1st through the end of the year. Under that annual earnings limit I talked about, that $23,400 in 2025, well, they're making well above the allowed amount for them to collect. But the law says during your first year of retirement, Social Security will pay you any month in which you happen to make a dollar amount which is equal to or less than that annualized dollar figure divided by 12. So for example, next year, you make $500,000 or $1 million, January through June 30th, you retire. Social Security will be able to pay you July through the end of the year for each month that you happen to make $1,950 or less. Where does that come from? Well, that's that $23,400 figure I mentioned divided by 12, the monthly figure. So regardless of how much you make prior to retirement, you can still collect during that first year of retirement. For any month, your earnings fall below the monthly equivalent of the annual total. So it is, though, viewed on a month-over-month basis. With Social Security, great news is you reach your 67th birthday, for example, in the middle of October, you're going to be eligible for a payment for the entire month of October. There's no proration, even though you don't turn 67 in our example, till the middle of the month. So basically, it comes down to it's a month-over-month calculation, and if your earnings fall below the total for that month, you can receive a payment for the month, even though your birthday may not be till sometime in the middle.
Okay, next one. I'm going to be careful with this, make sure I get it right. Should my wife wait until age 70 to receive her Social Security, or should she take it at 67 and then bounce up to a spousal benefit once I, the primary wage earner, begin to draw on my Social Security at age 70?
Great question. Great question. And for those who've been around for a while, may have remembered there were a number of esoteric Social Security claiming strategies that were all the rage in the past. There were things like file and suspend, claim some now, claim more later, file a restricted application. All of those esoteric strategies were ways that couples could optimize or maximize their lifetime Social Security benefits by fooling around with the spousal benefit rules. Those are all such great deals that Congress has eliminated them, and we're basically back to the fundamentals, which I tried to explain in my discussion. So for your wife, at age 66 or 67, let's say full retirement age is 67, she goes into Social Security then, she'll receive her full retirement age benefit amount, a payment equal to 100% of what she's eligible to receive based on her own work record. But at that point, if you're not yet collecting, she can't receive any additional spousal benefit at that point, and will simply continue to collect her own retirement benefit for the next, as you said, maybe 3 years in our example, till she turns 70 when you start to collect. Now, the important thing is her spousal payment is based on 50% of your full retirement age amount, and not 50% of that higher amount you're going to be collecting by having waited till age 70. Your having waited will help her if you pass away first and her survivor benefit is higher, but her spousal benefit is still only going to be 50% of your full retirement age amount, the amount you would have collected had you started at 67. So again, she starts at her full retirement age. She can't get anything more until she reaches, until you start to collect. But at that point, she's never going to get more than a total equal to 50% of your full retirement age amount. So the folks at Social Security can help you with some of those numbers, but basically it's one amount to the other, whichever one is higher, but you don't get both at once.
Great, thank you. What are the current life expectancy numbers used by the government for these calculations?
Social Security numbers say that if you're a 65-year-old man, on average these days, you're going to live to age 84. If you're a 65-year-old woman, on average, you're going to live to age 86. But more telling to me, Social Security numbers say of today's 65-year-olds, 1 in 3 expected to live to age 90, 1 in 7 age 95. Life expectancy is increasing. So again, as I say with people, and they ask, oh, when should I start to collect? I say, it's a very simple decision. You just need one piece of information. When are you going to die? Because ultimately it's a longevity decision, and if you knew exactly when you're going to die, it would all fall into place. But you don't.
I think
and so you make an informed decision about what might be best for you and your family based on the assumptions about health, longevity in the family. Do you come from a family of long livers? Or do you come from a family of short pancreases? All of those things come into play.
And I think that's interesting because, Kurt, if there was an algorithm, we would all plug in the numbers and do it. But
Mhm.
that is the big X factor for most people, I think.
Mhm.
Does Social Security subject to taxation?
Great question. And the answer I say with tongue planted firmly in cheek is you should hope so. And why do I say that? Well, let's differentiate between federal and state taxation, but we'll start federal taxation of Social Security benefits first. Prior to 1983, Social Security benefits were absolutely, totally, completely federal tax free. That year, Congress changed the IRS code, put in place thresholds that if you were a single tax filer and you had income from all sources, combined income, sometimes referred to, modified adjusted gross income, under $25,000, yeah, then no part of your Social Security benefits would be subject to federal income tax. If you were a couple filing jointly, you had income from all sources under $32,000, then no part of your Social Security benefits would be subject to federal income tax. But if you had income above those thresholds, then a portion of your Social Security benefits would be subject to federal income tax. And over the course of the past 41 years, Congress has never indexed those thresholds. So today, if you're a single tax filer, you have income from all sources in excess of 25,000, couple filing jointly in excess of 32,000, then depending on how much more you have in income above those thresholds, you could find yourself having to pay federal income tax on up to 85% of the payments that you had received in the prior year. 15% of what you receive is always federal tax-free, but up to 85% could be treated as ordinary income, taxed at whatever marginal tax rate you fall under. These days, about half of all Social Security beneficiaries do find themselves having to pay federal income tax on a portion of their benefits. At the end of the year, Social Security sends out a 1099 form, and you use that in filing your tax return. Question that always comes up is, well, does Social Security automatically withhold a portion of my benefits every month, send it to the IRS in advance like they do for my salary? The answer is no. But if you'd like to have some tax withholding done, you can request it by completing a Form W4V as in Victor. Send it into Social Security, and at your request, they'll withhold a portion of your benefits in advance, send it off to the IRS, may avoid the need for filing quarterly estimates. But in terms of federal taxation, the rules apply regardless of where you happen to reside. And $25,000, 32 for a couple above those thresholds, and up to 85% of your benefits, treated as ordinary income, tax at whatever marginal tax rate you're at. But what about state taxation of benefits? Well, the good news is the vast majority of states, 40 out of the 50 states, do not tax Social Security payments in any way, shape, or fashion. And that includes here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, Social Security benefits are state tax-free. In New England, by the way, the states of Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Vermont do tax Social Security benefits in some form or fashion at the state level, but Maine, New Hampshire, and Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts do not. So again, depending upon where you end up in retirement, you end up one of those 10 states, just need to double check with the taxing authorities in the state where you live to see if you happen to live in one of those 10 states that does tax Social Security benefits at the state level. But why did I say you should hope you pay federal income tax? Well, frankly, I don't know how you live a couple on under $32,000 in income in these days, but that's between me and somebody else. Anyway,
Thanks,
Peter.
Kurt. You had a slide earlier on that said that the limit for 2024 for full retirement or income is 59,520. And there's a listener that thought that perhaps you said that you could make as much as you wanted. There was
So
no.
that slide, and I kind of skipped over part of it. So work backwards. Understand that from the month you reach your full retirement age on, there's no longer any earnings limitation whatsoever. So let's say, for example, you reach your full retirement age of 67 in October of this year. So you're still working, making $1 million, you can begin to collect October on, regardless of the amount of money you're making while working. That slide, and that portion of the slide, which I kind of skipped over, says or applies to months the year you reach your full retirement age from January until the month prior to reaching your full retirement age. Meaning, this year, for example, you hit your full retirement age in October. Under the rules, if your earnings from January through September were $59,520 or less, then you could collect in those months if you chose to. Generous law is a little more generous the year you reach your full retirement age, but that figure applies only 2 months from January until a month before you reach your full retirement age. And again, you start to collect prior to your full retirement age, you're going to see that full retirement age benefit amount reduced by roughly 0.5% for each month you're going to be collecting. But there's a more generous test the year you reach your full retirement age that gives you a more generous threshold from the month January to the month just before your full retirement age month, with the understanding that from the month you reach your full retirement age on, there's no longer any earnings limitation, and you can work and earn as much as you'd like and collect at the same time.
Okay. If I'm collecting Social Security now, but my wife has yet to reach her full retirement age, at what age can she start to get half of my benefit?
So if she waits until her full retirement age to apply, she will be required to take her own retirement benefit first. Social Security will compare her full retirement age amount with 50% of your full retirement age amount. And if it's less, she'll receive the difference, moving her right up to exactly 50% of your full retirement age amount. So let's say, for example, you started to collect your full retirement age, you're getting $3,000 a month. That's your full retirement age amount. Your wife's full retirement age amount is $1,000. She goes into Social Security at her full retirement age. She collects the $1,000 based on her own work record first. Social Security then compares her $1,000 full retirement age amount with 50% of your $3,000 full retirement age amount, or $1,500. And at that point, she'll receive an additional $500, moving her from her own full retirement age amount up to that 50% of your full retirement age amount. So if she waits until her full retirement age to apply, she'll receive a benefit equal to exactly 50% of your full retirement age amount, or her own, whichever one is higher, but again, not both at once.
Okay, I got the last one here, and I'm going to read it because I'm not sure I can. Will my retirement from work also be taxed, or will that just be the earned income while I collect Social Security?
I'm no tax expert, but I play one
Yeah.
on TV. But it
Yeah.
seems to me if you have income during the course of the year, even if you retire mid-year, whatever income you've had prior to retirement, at the end of the year, you file your tax return. It's going to be based on whatever total amount of income you would happen to have during the course of the year. That income, if you've stopped, may not preclude you from collecting Social Security benefits, as we had talked about, but it probably will be taxable income because it's income you accrued during the course of the year.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, once again, thank you so much for everything. If you have a question that Kurt has not answered and you'd like him to address it, you can send it to us via the internet at ma@aarp.org. That's the main address. But also, in addition to that, you can get a lot of information on AARP at aarp.org/MA events, Massachusetts events. And another address which would be helpful is aarp.org/local. Lots of good stuff that AARP is putting out there. Lots of seminars, informational sessions like this with Kurt to help you out. So we hope you found it valuable. We hope you enjoyed it. We do this a few times a year. If you have other people interested in this topic, have them look for the next presentation. We'll be, I'm sure Kurt and I will be back here. So we're happy to do that. We also welcome your feedback on the aarp.org site. That would be wonderful. So thank you all for coming and enjoy the rest of your evening.
And happy holidays to everyone.
Everyone,
Take care,
thank
everyone.
you. You bet. Take care.